I've been budgeting for over 10 years, and in this video, I'm going to go through 5 different strategies that you can use this year from my least favorite of the 5 to my most favorite of the 5. But first, before we do that, we have to talk about how these videos work because I'm building my personal finance community in public daily with these videos. So what I want to do is a quick YouTube Q&A sort of section here. Basically, any comment that you put on any one of the videos, any questions that you have, I want to answer those first to give you guys immediate value. Then we're going to dive into probably why you clicked on this video. This little section of thoughts on my mind to help you reach your financial goals faster. Okay, so we're going to be talking about 5 different budgeting strategies that, again, I've used personally over the last 10 years through my personal finance journey. And then maybe towards the end, we can talk about some stuff happening inside of Dollar Discipline University here, which is my personal finance community. But let's go into the YouTube comments part of this video. And no YouTube comments. That's okay. This is like completely new to my channel. We're ramping this up. So now's the time to get in your questions. I probably would just make a whole video around your question right now if you were to do it, depending on when you're seeing this video. So let's go to the main part of the video, why you clicked. 5 budgeting strategies. And these are ones that I've literally tried myself. And of course, I had to sort of use this tool. I think this is a great way to share all this. So you're going to get one at a time here. So the first one that we're going to talk about is cash-only budgeting. And the concept is very simple, right? Only money, and it's like a no-card strategy. Sorry, let me just adjust my setup here so that I can type and my microphone doesn't fall over. Here we go. This is the production value that you're looking for. Absolutely. All right, perfect. No card. What's the benefit of this? Well, there's been a lot of studies done around around the idea of card or, cash or whatever. And there was a study in 2023. I'm sure there's a more recent one, but 52% reported that they're likely to make an impulse purchase when using a credit card versus 24% for cash. So basically twice as much. They're more likely to make an impulse purchase. And 58% cited credit cards as the payment method most likely to entice them to spend more money. And so then you start to think like, why is that? Well, with the credit card, it's like sort of fake money. It doesn't feel like it's real money. And what I mean by that is, I forget who said this. I would love to give the person credit to, but I heard someone say this and it makes so much sense. When you give a credit card to someone for payment, let's just say before like the, self-checkout stuff where you could just like tap the thing. Before that, you would just give someone a credit card to make the payment. They do their thing, the cashier, and then they give it back to you. So the trade is like, hey, I got let's say you're going grocery shopping. I got all these groceries. I gave them a piece of plastic and they gave it back to me. I won. I didn't have to give anything up, right? Whereas if you did cash, let's say, you did the same $100 of groceries and you hand over a $100 bill, the cashier does its thing and then you don't get the $100 back, right? So it's like this sort of thing of like really, really making it really, really hard to part ways with the dollars in your wallet. So I have another little chart here really quickly just to show the comparisons of like how the amount of credit card debt has increased over time by generation. So this is just kind of fun to look at. It's not really like a learning lesson here, but if we look through the years, so it has, Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, and the silent generation, almost, I think all groups of people are increasing their debt. So their credit card usage, I should say, average credit card debt in the US. So it just keeps going up and up and up, meaning more people are using credit cards, meaning more people think I'm not sharing my screen. Sorry, guys. Meaning more people are using their credit cards. More people feel like they need to use credit cards. Maybe they don't have the system in place to be able to understand how much it actually costs them to live. Maybe we're not increasing our income on a regular enough basis to be able to match the things that people like to complain about, like the cost of living, expenses, inflation, all this other stuff. Like, how are we like, okay, great. We know that these things are going to happen. How do we sort of combat that in our journey, right? So if we go back to this here, what I recommend is this for the cash only. Figure out how much your life costs. So, and then get cash each week to pay for it. Now, obviously, some things like your your rent, your mortgage, whatever, like maybe that won't be cash. Maybe you're making, for a mortgage, for example, like you're setting up an auto payment, or maybe like a utility, like you can't really go to the business and pay cash for it, right? It just sort of comes out of your bank account. But like things that you do weekly that you do pay cash for, like going to the grocery, maybe even gas, all these things, right? You can think about all these ways that you could pay cash, figure out how much that stuff costs, and then go to the ATM and take that cash out. Now, there's pros and cons to this. Of course, the pro is that I think you would end up spending less money. The con is that it's actually a pretty there's a lot of friction with this. One, now you have to carry around all this cash with you, right? You have to carry around money, which could be uncomfortable for some people, especially if you're like, hey, I found out that it's actually $400 for my week. And then now you're carrying around $400 when you're used to carrying around like 10 or something like that. So maybe you could be uncomfortable with that. The logistics of having to go to the ATM every week to take out the, say, $400, that's a pain in the ass. But if you're finding that you just are really, really struggling with overspending, I think this is a great way to at least combat that. So the way we figure out how much our life costs is we have to do an analysis that I like to call the 3-month look back. And what we do here is we look at our spending habits over the last 3 months, and we determine what we've been spending money on, where it's been going, and so at the end of the day, we're looking at an average of the 3 months for each of the categories, and then we're like, okay, does this make sense with like the things that are aligned, that the things that I want to do, the things that I'm saying are most important in my life, is that spending aligned to it? And then we're able to, I don't like to use the word cut or like reduce or anything like that, but it's like, how do we realign the money to now focus on our North Star goals? And then this is like sort of this vicious cycle of like, all right, let's do the process. What North Star goals? Do we need to redo the process and like keep reiterating on this process where we're like, okay, where have we been spending money on, and what in the past, what do we want to start spending money on in the future? And this is very relevant for me because this is not only what I've noticed helping people crush it in Dollar Discipline University, this strategy, but I've also been doing it in my personal life. Like I'm practicing what I'm preaching. We've had a lot of life changes over the last 18 months in my household, like my wife and I. So we've really needed to make sure that we are continually realigning the money that we do make and how we want to how we want to allocate it. So right now we have 2 kids in daycare, very expensive for, shout out to all the parents. I don't know how you're doing it either. And really, 18 months ago, 16, 17 months ago, our daughter was born, and we knew that she was eventually going to go to daycare in like 5 or 6 months, but we weren't going to wait until she went to daycare to then figure it out. We had to map out, okay, over the next 5-6 months, we need to figure out how to find $1,200 a month to be able to have her go to daycare. So it's like, okay, what are our options? Well, one of us could quit our job and then just like watch both of our kids. Okay, so that's that. We could just find ways to make more money. Okay, or we can sort of realign where our money is first and then figure out, maybe we need to do the other things as well. So we were able to realign. We realigned a lot of stuff. We no longer spend money on certain things that we used to, and now we're spending money on things that we need to or have to, right? And it's going to be a vicious cycle. Now, what's really exciting is our 4-year-old's going to go to kindergarten next year. So we have, 11, 12 months at the recording of this video where we'll be paying his $1,200 a month, and then that's going to fall off, and we're no longer going to be paying for that. And then we're going to be able to realign that money to something even more valuable, like maybe paying off our mortgage. Okay, so it's just this vicious cycle that never ends. And I think this would be tough to do like permanently, and that's why it's ranked my least favorite, to be honest with you. But it's just something that if you're struggling with overspending, I think this could be a great way to start. So let's go to the second one here, bi-weekly. And I have another little resource here So depending on when you're watching this, it doesn't really matter which month. Okay, I just made this a few months ago to show everyone kind of what our process is. So this is, say, a calendar of my wife and I's like expenses and everything like that. It's kind of tough to see, but let's talk through it. Biweekly basically means assuming that you make. This depends on when you get paid, essentially. So whenever you get paid, so for my wife and I, it's every 2 weeks we get paid in our 9 to 5 jobs. And what we do is since the most expensive thing in our life is our mortgage, and it comes out like say the first of the month. We both get paid around the first of the month, and then that money is basically for the mortgage. Okay, and then right now we've been able to like we make more than the mortgages, so we have a little net difference, which is great. And then everything else, we use credit cards. We actually use credit cards for organization, where now we're putting everything on a credit card, and then we pay it off in the middle of the month when we get paid again. So we have things like we pay off our credit cards, we do our auto investing stuff for like our future, our kids' future, etc. Some other expenses that we can't use a credit card for, but we link them here. And then there's like one utility bill that just it comes out of our bank account sort of around this time frame of the month, maybe the 12th or something, that we can't connect to a credit card, but it's kind of the same idea. Okay, so we've been doing this for a lot of years, and the win is when you can have your paychecks be higher than your largest have one of your paychecks be higher than your largest expense. So the roof over your head is probably the largest expense. It probably should be, I guess. And then everything else gets paid through like the next paycheck, the next set of paychecks. So this works if you have, 2 people in the household, 1 person in the household. It doesn't really matter. It's just a great framework to think about. And the leverage happens. So here we're making more money than our mortgage. Here we're making more money than all this other stuff. And then the net of that, so say it's even $100 or sometimes it's $500, we are able to put that more towards a financial goal that we're working on. So it wasn't always like this. Like there would be like when we were maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago, in our previous house, our mortgage was higher than our paychecks at the time, but our income has increased. And then we would make sure that difference, let's call it a couple $100, we made up in this section. So that means that our other parts of our life had to kind of be reduced to be able to make this work. And at the end of the month, we want to put extra money towards the financial goal. So at the very least, we want to be net even, including like maybe some, you're paying out financial goals here, like your auto investing, your auto putting money towards a savings account, extra money towards debt. Okay. So that's just been very helpful for us. And it's a great way to like kind of break up the paychecks and the income that you make. The reason why it's second is it is kind of intense. Because you now have to budget. If you've never budgeted before, and now I'm asking you to budget every time you get paid, it's like a lot. It could be a lot. But yeah, it's just another way to kind of think about it. The next one here, 50, 30, 20. It's a pretty popular one, but let's break it down. So 50% of our pay goes towards need items. 30% goes towards want items. 20% financial goals. People say this one is like 20% saving money. So I like to put financial goals because, if you have debt that you're paying down, then that's amazing too. You should be putting money towards that as well. Here's the great part about this, and then let's go through some of the cons that I think why people may fail using this as well. And I'm saying this from experience. This is just a great framework. Of where your money kind of should be going. Now, this will obviously differ, especially need items. This is going to vary based on where you live. Just to be very clear. There we go. I just wanted the little splash of color. It's going to vary based on where you live. So yeah, someone in, I think Honolulu is like the most expensive city, or one of, like San Francisco, right? Or I don't know, the middle of Alabama, the middle of nowhere. It's like this is going to look different for everyone, but it's just a great framework to think about. So like if your need items are 55% or 45%, it doesn't really matter. It's just it's a concept. Now, I think here's what people struggle with and why it fails for them, and maybe why they're, let's think about it a little differently. Because this is how I used to think about it, where I would just sort of chunk up all of my expenses, my need items and my want items during the month. Like life happens, it gets pretty tough, and it's just you sort of have this bucket of like 100% expenses. Like you're not even thinking about what stuff is, where it's going, right? And then the month happens and all this stuff, and then you're not able to, at the end of the month, look at your bank account and be like, man, I have no money left for the financial goals. And ideally, the financial goals should be one of the most important things, because if like how can we get to the next level of our personal finances or even our life without putting money into some sort of financial goal? Like if we're always in debt forever, you know, we're never going to uh, like say increase your net worth. If we're never saving any money, we're never going to be able to take the next step in our life and our personal finances, right? So this cycle happens all the freaking time. It's like this never ending cycle of just like, okay, I'm going to do the thing. And then you do the thing. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't have enough money. This is terrible, by the way. Um, I didn't have enough money to put towards the financial goal. And it's like, okay, next month, let me think about this a little more clear. Let me start with a plan. And then you're going through it. There's more of a plan. And then it's just like, oh my gosh, like an unexpected thing came up. And now this 20% that I was planning for the financial goal has to go towards, I don't know, new tires or whatever, right? And then this whole thing keeps happening. So what I want you to do, and this ties into the next one. So I'm going to kind of talk about this and then it's going to slink into the next one. What people do with this framework is once they see this, they're like, okay, so this is the order. So so let me do this in order of 1, 2, 3. So it's like, awesome. Yes, I need to pay my mortgage. I need to pay my mortgage. I need to pay my utilities. I need to eat food, right? And then it's like, okay, cool. I want those things on Amazon and the streaming services and all this other stuff. And then the last thing is the financial goals. But I think what people should be doing is shove this one up here. So basically, like, what are your need items? How much does it literally cost you to live? And then how can we put our financial goals the priority? And that goes into the next one, which is paying yourself first. So if we're looking at both of these things now, we have our 50%, so we know how much that costs, right? So let's say you make 5K a month or something, right? Whatever. You make 5K a month. So 50% your need items is $2,500. Okay. And then you're like, you know what? I have all this debt. I have some savings goals. Maybe I want to start investing or whatever the thing is, right? It doesn't matter. Financial goals. So 1/5 of the 5K. Now this might sound like a lot, but it's like, how do I put $1,000 towards this instantly? Like you basically get paid and then you shove money out the door to your financial goals immediately. So if you get paid every 2 weeks, like, I do, for example, if you have a $1,000 goal, basically 20% of your income, how can I shove $500 immediately out of my paycheck or out of my bank account so I don't feel like I have it? And then from there, we do the want items. 35. So this would be the rest of the $1,500. Okay. Now you could set it up this way. So now it's like, okay, now I need the roof over my head, but I'm paying myself first, right? Because this doesn't work if we're living on the streets. I guess it could. I'm sure there are very financially savvy people that don't necessarily have a roof over their head. But I think that's important, right? We need to have some sort of stability in life. So like roof over our head, we have to have lights turned on in the house. We need to be able to eat a reasonable amount of food every week, right? But then it's like, how do we get this 20%? So if we move it up forward, so the difference is basically just the order of this. Now, if you want to go super hard with this, what if you keep this the same, you don't increase your lifestyle at all or the things that you physically need, and you take maybe 10-20% of the want items and you flip it up here to the financial goals, and that's when you start cooking with gas. But that's all going back to this North Star goals thing. It's like you have to figure out what's important to you, why it's important to you, and then like the changes that you're going to make because of it. So just saying like, oh yeah, I'm going to put $3,000 towards my financial goals this month. It's like, okay, so it's a trade-off. So you're certainly able to do that, but what are important to you and why is it important to you? So I really hope that this kind of makes sense, because the things that we spend our time, money, effort, sacrifices on, if I knew how to spell, things we spend our money, time, effort, sacrifices on are the things that we are actually, so we might say something's important, but if we're not putting any of this in, then we're not, like, it doesn't matter. So back in the day, like 10 years ago or 8 years ago, maybe, my wife and I, we watched a lot of, like, say, Netflix or just TV shows. Like, we really sort of just kind of enjoyed that at the end of the night, like a lot of people do. And I think it makes a ton of sense. But, like, if we're spending 2 to 3 hours on that, then we're spending a big chunk of our day doing this. And if we wanted to reach other financial goals, but also we're wasting 3 hours of our time, it's like, well, maybe it's not that important. Like, could this 3 hours be used more productively to do XYZ that reaches this other goal that we have, right? So it's just a way to think about how do we really prioritize these things. The things that we say we want and the things that we're actually doing are oftentimes not aligned, so we need to align them. Okay, let's go to this last one, zero-based budgeting. This is my favorite budgeting strategy, and in fact, I've created I have some free resources inside the community. Wow, this is like massive. And it goes over this process, but basically, and it's also how my free personal finance budgeting, budget tracking, debt tracking software app is, and it's only accessible to people inside of my community right now. But more or less, it's like, okay, let's figure out how much money we make. How much, I should say, are we expected to make each month, or I should say make next month, because this is really sort of like a month by month basis. And then every single dollar of that needs a home. Okay, and what I mean by that is, if we use the 5K example again, so we'll say we're making $5,000 a month, we need to know where every dollar of that $5,000 that we're bringing in goes. And the way I like to think about it, and I'm going to draw, oh boy, I'm going to draw something here. So let's say we're at an event, and let's say it's like a Taylor Swift concert. Okay, she's got orange hair now, amazing. So we're at this big stadium, okay, and here's where all the rich people go. Awesome. So wow, this is this is so bad. Okay, but in every arena, right, we have an entrance, and this is where we show them our tickets, right? And we walk into the front door. Amazing. Now, when we walk into the front door, our ticket has a seat number, right? Because before we get there, we know where we're sitting and what area we're going to. Now, at a Taylor Swift concert, you're probably in the section like 314, and the nosebleed's way over here, right? And you can barely see anything because it's so freaking expensive. Probably. I've never been. But let's say you're going to 314, and you know that, and you get in, and one of the employees sort of helps you like navigate where 314 is. Okay, so instead of these tickets in your personal now I want you to think of this, not a Taylor Swift concert, but now this is your I guess your personal finances. So instead of Taylor Swift, now we have a dollar sign in the middle. Okay, again, terrible drawing. I need to figure out how to draw better. Okay, you guys get the idea. This is your personal finances, and then instead of tickets, this is every dollar. Okay? Every dollar that comes into your personal finance stadium, we need to know where and when we're going to 314. We need to know where and when we're going to, section 209, and then we need to know like where the rich people sit over here, which is like section 1. I don't know, right? We need to know all of our categories, where they are, how much money we're allocating towards them each month. And if we need help, like we need to ask maybe someone in here, hey, what do I do? And maybe that's where like some accountability comes in. So maybe you have a significant other or a friend, or, in a community where people can help you sort of align that. But I think looking at your, like, helping yourself first is really important to go through this. So and again, it all just kind of goes back to, where are we spending money? Where have we been spending money? And then where do we want to start spending money? And then how do we realign it? And then once we realign it, how do we figure out where those dollars sit? Okay, so that's the 5 budgeting strategies. What I wanted to just do now is just go through. Oh, that's cool. We got like 3 new people this morning. That's really cool. Basically, what I wanted to share is I'm doing this free event for new members that join the community. It's called Cash Flow Kickstart, and it's a 2-day sprint to find more money in your finances. And it's basically just diving super, super deep into this entire process that I'm talking about. So the 3-month look back, aligning it to the North Star goals, right? And how it's going to work is each video's call is going to be 30 minutes. It's going to be a group call. And this is not a like interactive thing. I can certainly, people can ask questions, and of course, but you're not going to be required to know anything or speak anything. It doesn't matter. Like the only person that's required to say anything, I guess, is me, right? So in call 1, I'm going to introduce like the processes, give you the resources, and, of course, answer any questions. Then in between the calls, so the calls are 48 hours apart to give you enough time, because I know how busy everyone is. You have your job, your family, whatever. There is an action item for you that, you would need to do. And then on call 2, we sort of take that action item, and it's going to be the first day of your new financial transformation, and we're going to leave your old habits behind. And what I mean by that is we're going to start realigning where our spending is going, okay? So if we look at the calendar in the community, how I've set this up for September, and there's one, depending on when you're watching on this, 2 days from now, but I've sort of spaced them out days and times just to try and figure out like, hey, what would interest people to join. So like, for example, this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, I have the first one here, and then Friday is the second one. Then I have Tuesday at 9 p.m. and then the Thursday at 9 p.m. I have a weekend event here. This is not a 48-hour difference, but I'm just trying to hit people that literally have no time during the week to be able to do something in the evening. And then again, I have another time here. So I'm opening up my calendar to hopefully do this. And depending on when you join the community, like if you're not in here yet, you might have like a solo session for the first the first couple might have like 1 to 3 people in it. But eventually I think this is the best strategy moving forward in terms of like, how do we give you, I'm thinking about you here. How do I give you value instantly when you join this community? And just like, how do you just start from zero and take an action and do something, and then boom, transformation. Okay. So, let me go back here really quickly. So in this group, like Angie was able to pay off $20,000 of debt in about 12 months by using this. Zane went from negative cash flow to pay off $5,000 of debt in 3 months. Janine just took 30 days. She was in the community for 30 days and she paid off 1 credit card. It was over $1,000, and not even realizing that she was able to do that, right? She just had all this, the way she saw it was all this money left on the table, and when she realigned her spending, right? So there are people getting awesome wins in here. It's completely free to join, because I do think that people deserve the opportunity to just have more confidence in their finances. So that's why I'm doing that. I'm making these videos daily, guys, on this channel. So yeah, make sure to let me know like if there's anything you want to see. And that's kind of where the YouTube questions and comments come in. So like, what do you want to see? What are you struggling with? What are your challenges? What are you winning in? And I'd love to see if I can help, and maybe if the community can help, and I'll see you tomorrow.